Bahrain is located just off the eastern coastline of Saudi Arabia and the Persian Gulf. Bahrain is an archipelago, which means small grouping of islands, and has 33 islands, the largest being Bahrain Island. Here, the majority speak Arabic, follow the Muslim religion, and abide to a constitutional monarchy. Bahrain comes from the Arabic word Bahran, meaning sea or two seas. The capital of Bahrain is Manama, and the population is nearly 1.3 million, where 50% of the population is immigrants. Bahrain has a strategic location in the Persian Gulf because it is close to primary Middle Eastern petroleum sources. Much of the Western world's petroleum must transit through Bahrain's archipelago to reach open ocean. Their environment suffers from oil spills because of this, causing damage to coastlines, coral reefs, and sea vegetation. As part of its diversification plans, Bahrain implemented a free trade agreement with the U.S. in August 2006, the first FTA between the U.S. and a Gulf state. As for media and journalism, Bahraini journalists risk 5-year prison terms for offenses which include undermining the government and religion. Self-censorship is widespread, and some well-known journalists and bloggers have been put behind bars.
The media and journalists in Bahrain operate in a highly restricted environment. With 100 being the worst and 0 being the best, Bahrain scores an 87 out of 100 on the press freedom score. In fact, Bahrain's press freedom status is listed as not free. Media professionals are often arrested and prosecuted. Journalists are threatened, intimidated, and harassed. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, there were 5 journalists in prison as of December 2016. There is no law in Bahrain that guarantees freedom of information. According to Freedom House, the Information Affairs Authority, or IAA, acts as the official censorship board in Bahrain. The IAA has the power to censor and prevent the distribution of local and foreign publications, close newspapers through court proceedings, ban books and films, block websites, and prosecute individuals. Bahrain has a 91% internet penetration rate. However, under the 2002 telecommunications law, the government in Bahrain has the authority to regulate internet activity. For example, all websites are required to register with the IAA, and religious and political content is heavily censored.
A news outlet owned by one of the princes in Saudi Arabia, Al-Walid bin Talal, was permanently shut down after releasing an interview with a prevalent Bahraini opposition figure, Khalid Marzouk of Al-Wafaq. The prince claimed that he was trying to fill a critical void by giving an unbiased view of the news event. Inspired by the Arab Spring's uprising, he felt Bahrain needed an outlet for freedom of speech. However, his goals were shut down when the piece was taken off the air shortly after it started airing. After the controversial piece aired, Bahrain's information ministry decided to suspend the news channel and later to completely shut it down because they had failed to match the standards of regional and international practice agreements and not received the necessary permits. Officials were sure to stress that this action has no impact upon principles of media freedom and is strictly based on the government's commitment to ensuring the diversity and impartiality of media outlets in the kingdom. There has been rising tensions, however, of the area's population criticizing the government of economic and political marginalization.
Nabil Rajab, a prominent human rights activist, was charged on September 5th by Bahrain's public prosecutor after the New York Times published a letter he had written from prison. He had been in prison since June 13th for charges related to online speech violations. The charge he had received was for intentionally broadcasting false news and malicious rumors abroad, impairing the prestige of the state, which sentenced him to 15 years in prison, and for this new charge, after the publishing of his letter, he is expected to receive an additional year on his sentence. Director of Advocacy at the Bahrain Institute for Rights and Democracy, Syed Ahmed Al-Wadai, stated, "Anyone can read the words of Nabil Rajab on the New York Times to see how pathetic this charge, which is completely contrary to the principle of free expression, is. During a time where authorities are punishing anyone for a contrary opinion, its attacks on the most basic universal freedoms have only caused further instability." Since Rajab's imprisonment, protests have occurred internationally demanding his release and for free speech rights for the people of Bahrain. UK Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, Boris Johnson, released a letter on February 3rd urging the release of Nabil Rajab. Johnson mentioned contradictions with the level of executions and imprisonments made for free speech-related charges and requesting a meeting to discuss how to reverse what he called the shrinking civil society space in Bahrain. Nabil's trial date has now been pushed back an 8th time, sparking more protests and leaving little hope that Bahrain is considering the release of Nabil anytime soon.